Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 14th of October, 2024. Happy No to the Voice 1 year anniversary. And just to start the show, I thought for old time's sake, I'd play the... Remember during the Voice campaign, I always played the Voice TV singing show introduction there. The ABC, they have been in mourning all day. They've had a whole number of Aboriginal activists, both black and white, that they've interviewed, saying, "Oh, they're still devastated 1 year on." I'm surprised that members of the ABC on-air team didn't wear black armbands. We are live on the Wilms Front YouTube channel, the Wilms Front Odyssey channel, and the Wilms Front Rumble channel. Hello to everyone in the live chats. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where last Tuesday, Jacob Hersant of the National Socialist Network was found guilty by Magistrate Brett Sonnet of performing a Nazi salute outside the Victorian County Courthouse last October. This was after he and Thomas Sewell had just pled guilty to a charge of violent disorder. It was Judge Kelly Blair who sentenced Thomas Sewell to time served in prison and Jacob to a community corrections order. This was over their confrontation with Antifa stalkers who followed them to the Cathedral Ranges way back in May 2021. So justice is very slow in Victoria, and it continues to be. This is from Noticer.news. So he was found guilty on the Tuesday. So Magistrate Brett Sonnet rejected his defense, which was put forward by his lawyer, Timothy Smart, that the argument that Hersant did not make the gesture. Now, you may remember that because it was only a few days after the ban had come into effect on the Nazi salute. And so he said Heil Hitler and raised it about 3/4 of the way from doing a full salute because it's second nature to Jacob. He's told the media on previous occasion that he Nazi salutes every day. You can in the privacy of your own home, as long as nobody in the public sees. So he clearly forgot that it made illegal, so stopped himself. That is just my interpretation of it. So that defense was rejected. So was the argument that it is constitutionally invalid, the Nazi salute ban, as they restrict legitimate political expression, because Australians have, under a High Court ruling, an implied freedom of political communication. So on the Wednesday, Jacob returned to court for sentencing. And so Magistrate Brett Sonnet said the only appropriate sentencing order was a term in imprisonment, and attempted to have him remanded in custody ahead of the final sentence, which he was going to take 2 weeks. So he took about a month to decide that Jacob was guilty, but needed another month to just decide what the sentence is. I mean, talk about twiddling your thumbs. I mean, we saw over in the UK in the aftermath of the riots, they were able to expeditely find guilty the rioters and those who posted in support of the riots and sentence them to years in prison. Jacob Hersant's lawyer, Timothy Smart, successfully argued for his client to released on bail, citing his strong job prospects and character references as a young father and supportive partner, and revealed Mr. Hersant recently won a US poetry contest. The mainstream media court reporter thoughts that were outside, of course, gave it their best to berate Jacob. Aren't you embarrassed? What does your mum think? And Jacob's mum was there in support. His parents, they don't support his political ideology of National Socialism, but they support his right to activism. And Jacob, he just answered the questions that I should have the right to my views and that they shouldn't be impeded if we supposedly live in a liberal democracy. I am a National Socialist. I never shy away from my views. I'll continue to express them within the law, though I'm prepared to go to jail. I'm paraphrasing here. Nobody take me out of context here, because the whole exchange that he has with the media goes for about 5 minutes. There was this brown dark man in the background who appeared to do a Nazi salute as the press conference was going on. So I wonder if he will be charged. But this was a 10 News first report, which aired on the Wednesday night, which, was probably the most accurate of all of the mainstream media reports.
White supremacist Jacob Hersant has been sent home on bail, despite becoming the first Victorian to be found guilty of performing the Nazi salute. The 25-year-old will likely be sent to prison in a month, but he's currently using his freedom to continue to spruik his extremist views.
Jacob Hersant thought he was being sent to jail.
I regret nothing.
He reiterated his extremist views as he entered the magistrate's court.
I will appeal this, and these anti-white and tyrannical laws will be struck down. And if I have to suffer in that process, I'm more than willing to do that.
The 25-year-old father was yesterday found guilty of performing the Nazi salute.
Oh, nearly did it. It's illegal now, isn't it?
He became the first person charged under new Victorian laws.
Are you embarrassed about this?
No, I'm proud to serve my nation.
What is there to be proud about?
Fighting for our rights as white Australians to express ourselves politically.
The magistrate indicated the self-proclaimed neo-Nazi would be sentenced to time in prison. He brought along his mum and fellow white supremacist Thomas Sewell.
The laws are unconstitutional.
But Hersant was sent home. It was a bizarre about-face by Magistrate Brett Sonnet to grant bail just hours after telling Hersant he would be taken into custody. But the 25-year-old's freedom is likely to be short-lived. He'll return to court in 4 weeks to be sentenced.
I'm prepared. You can see this bag here. I'm prepared to go to jail for my beliefs and for the rights of white Australians to express themselves politically.
He'll be sentenced on November 8. Samantha Butler for 10 News First.
Now, you saw in that 10 News segment accompanying Jacob to court was another National Socialist Network member, Nathan Bull, who has also been charged with performing a Nazi salute. This was he's accused of performing at Carlton's Cinema Nova back on March the 9th. Now, also Nathan Bull, he and Michael Nelson, Michael, former host of White Australia First, they were both fined for offensive behaviour last year for their shirts, which had the photo of outline of Hitler and said 6 million a bit much. That'll probably come next, that having images, portraits of Hitler in public, and also denying or questioning the Holocaust will probably be illegal soon. That's the way Australia is heading. And as this Noticer.news article said, that free speech advocates and libertarians have condemned this ruling and the law itself. I mean, I spoke about last week how conscious I was at the free speech rally of when some of the speakers said, raise your hand if you believe this, and I was very careful to just raise it like that, because there was that transgender Antifa-aligned photographer, Alex Zucco, who was also there at March for the Babies this Saturday, which I attended and covered, though I was also the taxi driver for the Dusty Bogan and his cameraman Australia Talks. I wasn't able to stay for the whole time. The pair, they flew in, flew out from Brisbane for the day. Most of his content will be on his censored TV program. I still need to put together some of my footage, which I'll show you some of it in a moment. But going back to the fact that we have at our bus and tram stops, it says Heil Bus, Heil Tram, with the hand lifted in what looks like a Nazi salute. And also remember, Damien Richardson was accused of giving a Nazi salute when he attended the National Workers Alliance Stop Mass Immigration event at the Urban Street Restaurant in McKinnon. So Damien told me that he was hailing a cab. That's what he was doing. So this is the thing, that you can be photographed. You've got to be really careful, because, like, well, I mentioned at the free speech rally, I could have been photographed in the process of raising my arm, and so that's why I was very careful, because it could have been a photo. I could have been snapped in a way that made it look like I was giving a Nazi salute if I wasn't careful about how I raised my hand. This is the absurdity, that we're criminalizing hand movements in a particular way. Now, obviously, the reason why Jacob is going to be sentenced to prison is because he is a proud National Socialist. He has been since he was a teenager. That's when I first met him. So he's prepared to go to jail for his beliefs. He is not going to be deterred by this this looming imprisonment, and he's certainly not going to. The mainstream media's berating of him is not going to change his views. He also communicates directly with the public on his Telegram channel, which amazingly hasn't been censored on the iOS, Apple, or Android app. And so he reiterated his intention to appeal.
We'll be appealing this conviction all the way to the High Court, or until we win in a lower court. This process will take years, and I will not be punished before all of these court battles are finalised. It is likely that these laws will be ruled invalid, and failing that the sentence will be changed from prison to something less extreme. However unlikely, if I were to be convicted of this supposed crime in the High Court and sentenced to a term of imprisonment, I would be placed into solitary confinement, because I am what is designated as a high-profile prisoner and a major offender. Unless non-whites find a way to rape through thick concrete walls, I'm quite sure I'll be safe from unwanted advances. I must apologise to the Jews, race traitors and non-whites in this country. The world isn't a fair place, and your dreams of my rape at the hands of subhumans in prison will not come to fruition.
There are sexual sadists who would hope that Jacob would get raped in prison, as he is saying there, like what happens in American History X, if you've seen that movie. Now, the Victoria Police, they were patting themselves on the back for a successful prosecution under Victoria's Nazi salute ban. So the maximum penalty is 12 months in prison and $23,000 fine. But in the same week, Jacob was found guilty and has a prison sentence looming over him. A Victoria Police sergeant stands accused of performing the Nazi salute twice at the Victoria Police Academy in Glen Waverley. So, according to a police source, it is allegedly 65-year-old Sergeant Mandy Finegan, and she is alleged to have said the words "Heil Hitler." That will probably also be made illegal to say in public, "Heil Hitler." So she said it in the. So she performed the salute and said "Heil Hitler" like Jacob did. So she has been a Victoria police officer for more than 40 years. For the past 16 years, she has worked at the police academy as an instructor on family violence, of all things. So a police source has said the alleged incident occurred during a training class at the academy where Finegan made the Nazi salute following a dispute with another trainer. A group of trainees witnessed the alleged incident. This led to a press conference on Saturday by Chief Commissioner Shane Patton. And on Nine News's coverage that night, guess who turned up to, of course, express their absolute disgust?
The Jewish community is furious following allegations a policewoman performed Nazi salutes while on duty. Chief Commissioner Shane Patton has apologised, while the veteran sergeant has been stood down and is expected to be charged. More from Isabel Quinlan.
Our top cop fronting up after allegations of anti-Semitic behaviour in the force.
I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled at the conduct, and we won't tolerate it.
Police say a female sergeant performed the Nazi salute while voicing Heil Hitler on 2 occasions at the Victoria Police Academy last week. The first took place on Tuesday afternoon when the member approached 2 colleagues. She then did it again the next day during a training exercise with a recruit squad and another instructor. The incident was reported and she was suspended with pay yesterday.
I just can't fathom it. It's behaviour that I wouldn't expect from any member of the community, let alone a police sergeant.
The 65-year-old has been in the force for 40 years. Police say there is no known history of extreme views.
It's an outright assault on the values and principles that Victoria Police is sworn to uphold. This is a sad day for Victoria.
It's understood the accused member was formally interviewed this morning. If found guilty, she will not only face the possibility of being dismissed from the force, she'll likely be charged, where the maximum penalty is a $23,000 fine or 12 months in jail. On Wednesday, Jacob Hersant became the first person in Victoria to be found guilty of performing a Nazi salute in public, while prominent Melbourne restaurateur Alan Yazbek will front a Sydney court later this month after displaying a Nazi symbol at a pro-Palestinian rally. He has since apologised for his actions.
It is never acceptable. It has to be condemned. It is ugly.
Isabel Quinlan, 9 News.
Yes, DeVere must have felt it was like I was stabbed in the heart. That is, well, yeah, I'm paraphrasing what he said on this is why the media loves having him on, because of his analogies about how words are violent acts. So I just summarize what he said. What he says is just, it felt like I'd been stabbed in the heart. He's felt like he's been stabbed in the heart about 6 or 7 times. But you have to laugh at this what's happened allegedly at this Victoria Police Academy with this, and it's not like it wasn't a cadet. It was a 40-year veteran, Mandy Finegan. I looked up the origin of that name. It's an Irish name. So, and it's also another example of no matter how woke an institution tries to be, because I saw that Mechlem Weichheimer, who over 2 decades ago, when he was racially abused and had a bottle thrown at him by some drunk footballers from the Ocean Grove Football Club, and the driver was an off-duty Victoria Police officer. He posted, and I'm paraphrasing, "Oh, no wonder Victoria Police isn't taking anti-Semitism seriously." So despite Victoria Police's constant efforts at community liaison outreach, they're still being accused of anti-Semitism. Remember, they were accused of racism because one of the Victoria police officers outside of, this was way back in 2019, the mining conference blockade, did the OK sign. And so Tom Tanuki, real name Thomas Stevens, was on ABC News saying there needs to be an inquiry into racism in the police. But De Vere, he would have felt stabbed in the heart twice in one day because, well, despite the National Socialist Network founder and leader Jacob Hersant facing prison, the National Socialist Network were not deterred from from going out in public again for another round of activism or stunt, whichever way you want to call it. They turned up in the New South Wales Victoria border town of Corowa, which is just north of the Victorian border in New South Wales. The bridge into Corowa, that is actually where Jared Seeby was arrested for crossing the Victoria-New South Wales border when the border was shut during the COVID lockdowns. And now they chose to gather in Corowa because a multinational meat processor, JBS, they are importing workers from overseas. And so this was on, I'm playing all three commercial networks tonight. This was 7 News' report on the National Socialist Network's visit to Corowa.
Marching on a country town, converging on Corowa's War Memorial.
What the is this bull?
Yesterday, around 50 neo-Nazis brought black shirts, balaclavas, banners.
Blood and honour! Blood and honour!
And hate.
They've already begun firing locals from this town. They're firing locals from their jobs. And they're importing cheap labour from the third world to replace them.
Led by far-right extremist and convicted criminal Thomas Sewell, the surprise rally happening in the small Murray River town a stone's throw from the Victorian border, enraging some locals.
That's it, take the masks off. Pack of dogs.
When you dare stand up against the people.
This is disgraceful and cowardly behaviour.
Not sure why it happened in Corowa, whether it was smaller numbers of policing or the fact that there's rules in Victoria that don't allow this sort of protest.
The National Socialist Network has caused problems on both sides of the border.
I'm allowed to be racist, it's legal.
Its attempted display in Sydney on Australia Day intercepted.
They did a similar thing in Ballarat. I think they come to small towns hoping for big headlines. Well, they've picked the wrong place this time.
Police saying they dispersed the crowd of about 50 people in Corowa, but there were no arrests.
The New South Wales Premier today joined the chorus denouncing the border town display, saying detectives are investigating and haven't ruled out criminal charges. Andrew Denny, 7 News.
And this Age Sydney Morning Herald article titled Corowa Neo-Nazi Rally Sparks Call for United Front Against Hate. So it quotes Chris Minns put out a X thread. It's called the behavior despicable. We have a very simple message for these far-right extremists and neo-Nazis from our state. You are not welcome in New South Wales. An attempt to spread hate here will be met with the full force of New South Wales Police. And Jacinta Allen said that this is a disgraceful, cowardly behaviour. It is hurtful, hateful. There is absolutely no place in any part of our community organisations. And said we must stamp out this behaviour. And it also quotes Susan Ley, who's the federal deputy Liberal leader for Farrer, which takes in Corowa, said the town to now join Ballarat in being subject to this sort of unacceptable activity. It is clear this is part of a strategy to shock and provoke using regional towns. In recent months, similar activities have rightly shut down in our cities. We cannot and should not tolerate gangs of balaclava wearing thugs spouting hate anywhere in this country. She said law enforcement authorities had the federal coalition's support to take whatever action is necessary to dismantle this organisation and stop these sort of activities occurring. We must redouble our efforts to counter this radicalisation and equip our authorities with every necessary support to take stronger action. So Susan Ley, it's not listed in this article, but she said maybe they came to New South Wales because they can't do it in Victoria, which is not true. They can still gather in Victoria without, obviously they can't unfurl Nazi symbols or do the Nazi salute. They tried to charge Thomas Sewell with offensive behaviour for the Ballarat rally. It was on the anniversary of the Eureka Stockade. He told their police to get nicked and they haven't bothered him again. Offensive behaviour, that was that new charge that was brought in after Richard Pussy filmed dying Victoria police officers on the Eastern Freeway in April 2020. I knew that that law would be used for political purposes, though they haven't been successful yet in actually charging Thomas Sewell or anyone else. So they have move on powers in New South Wales. So that's what they used in Corowa and also when they went to Sydney on Australia Day. And in Queensland, they have even more extreme powers, and that's how they were able to shut them down on the Gold Coast and for rallying in Brisbane as well. So how many more? And again, if we don't support free speech for neo-Nazis, then we don't support free speech at all, because free speech is for every group as long as they're not directly inciting violence. It's the same with remember the first target of social media censorship was Alex Jones. And because Alex Jones was, well, he was considered fringe back then. Well, that's Alex Jones. But then, of course, the walls continued to go in. And this is what's going to happen here as well. All these laws, although they're aimed at neo-Nazis, National Socialist Network, they're going to come after other dissident groups who are standing up for freedom or against child grooming. That's the purpose of the new anti-vilification laws in Victoria. Now, as I mentioned, I was at the 16th annual March for the Babies in Melbourne. So Saturday, the 12th of October. It's held on the Saturday closest to the anniversary of the passing of the Victorian Abortion Law Reform Act, which legalised abortion up until birth. Sophia Redjeb says, I'd like to ask how neo-Nazi free speech is not inciting violence. Would you like to give an example of how it does? But I agree, the people need to protect the protest, but freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence. That's just an inane slogan. I mean, do you agree that with what's happened to the restaurateur who showed that Israeli flag with a swastika on it? So he's got negative feedback on social media, losing a lot of business. So Alan Yazbek owns the Nomad group of restaurants in Sydney and Melbourne, and also the Rene and La Rue. He's also been prosecuted by the New South Wales Police for that Israeli swastika flag. Though in Victoria and at the federal level, you're protected if you're displaying the swastikas to oppose Nazism. So, I don't know, for example, if you had a flag that said Trump is a poster that said Trump is a Nazi, you're obviously opposing Trump because you think he's a Nazi. I'm just using the example here. So yes, nobody should be prosecuted for free speech that is not a direct incitement to violence. And we also had this week the two students arrested at the University of Western Sydney because they had tried to occupy the Chancellor's building, and that also in the they tried to unfurl a banner, Haniyeh's building, a reference to Ismail Haniyeh, a former chief of Hamas who was killed in July in the Iranian capital of Tehran. Obviously supporting, I would say that's different, supporting an organization which is a terrorist organization which calls for the obliteration of Israel, the same as Hezbollah. Now, they had to, in the law that was passed at the beginning of this year, which bans listed terrorist organization symbols, they had to make a special provision to banning Nazi symbols and the Nazi salute, because and Mike Burgess himself has said that the National Socialist Network, other neo-Nazi groups don't meet the threshold for being listed as a terrorist organization. Thomas Sewell has said that we're a peaceful organization, but we will respond if we were attacked, and that's why he said he attacked that Afro-Caribbean security guard outside Channel 9, who he said grabbed Jacob's throat back in February 2021, and also why they confronted those hikers. Paleoconservative Australian has just joined the chat. Paleoconservative Australian says, please support open borders for Israel. Without multiculturalism, Israel won't survive. Well, Sherry Markson, the Sky News host, she, for October 7, went over to Israel and said she feels safer in Israel than she does in Sydney, where she lives and works. So, given that she had to, during a live show, shelter when she was in southern Israel, I mean, again, I mentioned last week, living 3 kilometers from people who want to kill you in southern Israel. She had a private briefing with Benjamin Netanyahu, so didn't get a chance to interviewing him. That's a good point. If she feels safer in Israel, again, amazingly, there's 4 Israelis who've been killed by Hezbollah rockets in northern Israel. I completely got sidetracked by those questions from Sophia Redjab. But I do want to continue talking about the March for the Babies now. So the Victoria's Abortion Law Reform Act, which passed in 2008, became legalized abortion up until birth, became the model for abortion laws across Australia. So every state and territory in Australia now has abortion up until birth. So Ralph Babet tried to have an emergency motion brought in the Senate last month to protect babies who survive an abortion. That was voted down by Labor and the Greens. Sophia, I am not pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. I am pro-Australia first. I abhor that this conflict halfway across the world is playing out on our streets. Various groups in Australia bringing their foreign the grievances they supposedly left behind here. And our government solution, of course, in response to this is just more laws against free speech. So the March for the Babies president is former Victorian Liberal MLC Bernie Finn, until he was expelled from the Victorian Liberal Parliamentary Party room in 2022 for restating his pro-life beliefs in the aftermath of Roe versus Wade being overturned by the United States Supreme Court. So Matthew Guy, who was leader at the time, expelled him from the Parliamentary Liberal Party room. He then stood for the Democratic Labor Party at the 2022 state election. He's standing for Family First at the next federal Senate election in Victoria. Now, Moira Deeming was pre-selected in Bernie Finn's place in the first position in the Western Metro region for the Liberal Party. And Moira herself is also pro-life. She was secretary for the March for the Babies back in 2019. So they expelled Bernie Finn because they wanted his seat, but then a Bernie ally who actually recruited her to the party, Moira Deeming, was pre-selected in his place. And then, of course, John Prosciutto expelled Moira Deeming on the second attempt from the Parliamentary Liberal Party room for associations with Kelly J. Keane and Angie Jones in the aftermath of the Let Women Speak, when Thomas Sewell and the National Socialist Network turned up. And that was the trigger for the Nazi salute ban when the National Socialist Network performed it on the steps of Victoria's Parliament House. Now, every year there is a pro-abortion counter protest organised by Christopher Johnson, who is most famous for being Avi Yemeni's stalker. Always carrying around that shopping board just in case Avi shows up, which says Avi Yemeni is a wife basher, which is not legally accurate even. And he's also when he saw me at the last Women Will Speak, he gave me a literal shout out. Though I didn't encounter him, he had organized, what was it called? The Pro-Choice and Proud Party. Now, the Victoria Police kept both rallies separate, though there was this a woman who disguised herself as an abortion survivor who was actually a pro-abortionist undercover wearing a wig. And like last year, the disruptors, she chose to she was whisked away by the Australian peacemakers, burst a balloon with fake fetus blood. This is what happened here. It was incredibly lame.
Just Senator Andrews, and Alan is ultimately responsible for almost 20,000 deaths of babies every year in this state. She must be aware she has blood on her hands. We must tell her that she has blood on her hands and that we have had enough and we are not going to put up with it anymore. We've got to say that to both sides, because we know that both the Liberal leader and the... we know that both the Liberal leader and the Labor leader... Oh, they did that last year. They're not very original, are they?
So the disruption lasted less than 10 seconds. The Australian peacemakers, you saw Nick Patterson in the background there, a pro-life Christian. So I think they were well prepared from last year, where these two women, they blasted this loud horn and took off their jacket and had their slogan, "Pro-life is a lie." That's their inane slogan. You don't care if women die. Well, these pro-abortionists don't care about the babies being killed. Dr. Joanna Howe, who is single-handedly reviving the pro-life movement in Australia. A professor of law at the University of Adelaide. A university attempted to re-educate her because of her pro-life views, but she beat them at the Fair Work Commission. So she is spearheading grassroots activism in her home state of South Australia. There's a private members bill by a Liberal MLC in the South Australian Upper House, Ben Hood, which would allow a baby to be born alive after 28 weeks pregnant, rather than be deliberately killed with potassium chloride. I should upload a Dr. Joanna Howe's speech in full, because it is extremely powerful. She's an extremely gifted orator and a very tenacious activist. When you see her in real life, she's this very small, petite Indian lady, but yeah, she's got a loud voice, and you should follow her on particularly X, because she is making great content, and also countering the pro-abortionists who claim, oh, there's no late-term abortions happening simply for lifestyle reasons. The pro-abortionists, their strategy is just to deny, no, there's not babies born alive. What are you talking about? So also abortion has become an issue in the Queensland state election, which is on Saturday, the October 26th. So the Unshackled will be hosting a live stream on election night. Now, Queensland is now an hour behind because of daylight saving, so we won't start until about 8 p.m. on the Australian Eastern Standard Time on the 26th, Saturday the 26th of October. So the Liberal National Party under leader David Crisafulli still looks set to win, but he is adopting the smallest of small target strategies. And now Robbie Katter of Katter's Australian Party, Bob Katter's son, who's the member for Mount Isa, has promised to bring a bill to wind back. Queensland has the same abortion up to birth laws as Victoria. Now, even though David Crisafulli voted against this, and so did most LNP MPs, apart from 3 in 2018, he has said, when he's, because of course all of the the press pack. They're all pro-abortion. They've constantly been asking him, will you back Robbie Katter's private members bill? And he said, it's not part of our plan. We've ruled it out. Well, you actually can't rule it out because it's supposed to be a conscience vote, life and death issues in both the Liberal and Labor Party, though we saw that what happened to Bernie Finn, as I mentioned, restating his pro-life beliefs, he was expelled. Sophia says, where are these abortion up to birth laws? They are nationwide. As long as 2 doctors sign off on a late-term abortion, it can happen. What happened to freedom? Killing babies is not freedom. I mean, it's killing people is not freedom. That's also why I'm anti-war as well. That's why I also don't want to see innocent civilians killed both in Israel, Gaza, the West Bank, and in Lebanon. So I'm a consistent pro-lifer. We had in the federal parliament last week, Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton couldn't agree on an October 7, a remembrance motion. Peter Dutton said it should just be focused on the condemning the attack and remembering the lives lost on October 7. But the Albanese government's motion, although it reiterated the government's unequivocal condemnation of Hamas terror attacks on Israel and called for the release of the hostages. Glad it didn't accidentally say sausages like Keir Starmer accidentally said. He said the House also mourns the death of all innocent civilians and calls for a ceasefire and a 2-state solution. Also, Penny Wong, she has been arranging for taxpayer-funded flights for Australians still in Lebanon, so flights from Beirut to Cyprus. So the flights have now ended. She said that they're ending on Sunday night. So 4,000 registered to leave. There's 15,000 Australians still in Lebanon, but only 2,300 left on those flights. Flights were leaving half empty. So Simon Birmingham, he said that they've been told since October 7 Australians to get out of Lebanon, and there have been people since October 7. And I say Australians because they hold Australian citizenship, who have been traveling to Lebanon for weddings and holidays. I couldn't think of a place for a holiday. Sophia says Penny Wong has said they're not funding flights out of Lebanon, so they are going to be charged the Lebanese who are being flown out of Beirut to Cyprus. This is the first that I'm hearing of it. I mean, remember during the COVID lockdowns, Australians who wanted to come home, they had to pay for their flights and then had to pay for the 14 days of hotel quarantine as well. So if it was good enough for Australians who are coming back during COVID, not that I supported the shutting out of Australian citizens because of a virus with a 99% survival rate. DML says politicians need to be reminded this is Australia and that they're here to serve Australia, living in Australia, and those who value their safety. I mean, how much can the Australian government do if they want to stay in a war zone? Then it's like evacuations from bushfire zones. Like you can't fix stupid. This is the thing. But though I heard the head of, what is it, the Muslim Lebanese Council say, the Australian government should do more because, these elderly Lebanese Australians, they can't speak English, don't have access to the internet. Well, how the hell did they become Australian citizens if they can't speak English? Seriously. And on the anniversary of October 7, last week, Tony Burke, the new immigration and Home Affairs Minister, let in Hamas supporter Khaled Bayudin, an associate professor in law at Arizona State University, who celebrated the October 7 attack. And Tony Burke, all he cares about is retaining his seat of Watson in Western Sydney, where I can't remember where it's his seat that has 25 or 40% Muslim. So Jason Clare's the other one in Blaxland, biggest Muslim voting bloc in Australia. Cat B says many from Sydney's West, huge Labor seat political. Now, the departed Labor Senator Fatima Payman, she announced the name of her new political party. Remember, she quit the party over its crossing the floor for that Greens motion, which condemned. I can't even remember what the motion was, but it was basically condemning Israel, the Israeli attacks, and she repeated from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Ajit Jaisa says Australia 250 languages. Why Anglo? It's Anglo-Saxon, not Saxon English. FYI. So she's chosen the name of her party, Australia's Voice, which a lot of people have said it's probably more like Afghan's voice or Allah's voice. Certainly doesn't represent the voice of the majority of Australians. And she probably actually would have garnered more support if it had been an explicitly Muslim party. I mean, it's just going to fall into the void, her party now. I mean, the radical pro-Palestine far left, they're still going to vote for the Greens or the Victorian Socialists. So she's just going to be a voice in the wilderness, but she's going to be in the Senate until July and June 30th, 2028, when her terms expires. Pelling it's over the Australian. Why are Palestinians entitled to their own ethno-state? Why not white Australians? It is interesting how that works. The far left, who believe in open borders to Western countries, believe that a ethnic racial group in the Middle East should get their own state. And we are seeing both, not just Arab Muslims, but Muslims. They care more about and this is why Muslim votes matter, and the Muslim vote was formed primarily because they wanted a stronger foreign policy on for the government to stand with Gaza against Israel. Another senator who quit her party that we are stuck with, well, us Victorians are stuck with representing us until June 30th, 2028, is Lydia Thorpe. Remember, quit the Greens because she was a progressive no, because she wanted truth-telling and treaty first. Now, she previously was the Greens Indigenous spokeswoman. Her successor as the Greens Indigenous Affairs spokeswoman Western Australian Senator Dorinda Cox. She is being investigated by her Greens party in Western Australia over bullying allegations. So she has gone through 20 staff since she took office 3 years ago. 15 former staffers have complained of bullying, and it was her state branch that ended up deciding to take action because her leader, Adam Bant, and this is always the case with the Be Kind, pro a woman, say they're pro woman, that we're compassionate. They're the biggest bullies of them all. So Adam Bant said, this is just an investigation for the Parliamentary Workplace Support Service, which of course was set up in the aftermath of the Kate Jenkins review into Parliament House culture, which of course was triggered by Brittany Higgins' rape allegation, but also Rochelle Miller's accusations of mistreatment by her boss, Alan Tudge, who she was having an affair with, accused him of kicking her in bed. She got a $600,000 payout. Brittany Higgins got $3 million. Bruce Lehrman, who of course lost his civil case against Network 10, and Lisa Wilkinson over the interview with Brittany Higgins, is trying to appeal the judgment, and said that he is dead broke and that he might have to do OnlyFans. No thanks. That's terrible mental image there. I don't know why his lawyer mentioned it, but again, this is of course, it was used for political purposes by Labor and the Greens at the time to whack the Morrison government as anti-women. And this week, we also saw Richard Marles, Chief of Staff, Joe Tarnowski, has alleged she was told by him to find another job in late April after she complained of bullying in his office, which she said left her with suicidal thoughts. So she's in a temporary job elsewhere in Parliament House, paid for by the taxpayer, of course. She claims she had no direct engagement with Miles in five months. She held a press conference at Parliament House with her lawyer, Michael Bradley of Marquee Lawyers, but has not yet lodged a legal claim. So again, if the shoe was on the other foot, if it was the deputy Liberal leader, a male, hypothetically, then the Labor Party, Katie Gallagher, the Minister for Women, would go absolutely hard as saying this proves that the Liberal Party has a problem with women. Although certainly Jeff Kennett, the former Victorian Liberal Premier, didn't have didn't do any favors for getting more women into the Liberal Party on the weekend when he lashed out when he was addressing the Young Liberals gala dinner. A woman in the front row had continued to carry on a conversation. He was speaking, and Jeff Kennett likes the sound of his own voice, and so he said, "Rude little bitch," which he apologized for, but said I was constantly interrupting. Now, Jeff Kennett is one of the bankrollers of John Pesciuto's legal defense against Moira Deeming. The other two are former Victorian Liberal premiers Ted Ballew and Dennis Napthine. It wasn't a good week for both the Liberal and Labor parties standing with women. But John Pesciuto is ahead in the polls. So the latest a poll published by Redbridge, headed by former Assistant Labor State Secretary Cos Samaras, has so they're ahead two-party preferred. the coalition to Labor's 49, the first time since 2017 they've been ahead. The Liberal Party's primary vote is 40. That's where they need to be to win, while Labor is at 30. So this is why the leadership, the potential leadership spill against John Prosciutto, which was rumoured tomorrow, is now rumoured to not happen because he's ahead in the polls. And though if he loses the defamation case against Moira Deeming, then that'll certainly be, again, there'll be agitation for change. I mean, none of us thought that John Prosciutto, after he took 2 goes at getting rid of Moira Deeming and then she commenced legal proceedings, so there's still more going on in the chat. So he survived this long, John Prosciutto. None of us thought that he would. So who knows? He could actually make it to the next state election and could actually be Premier. Who knows? Ted Bellew won in 2010 just by default. So let's catch up on the chat there. Bruce says Australia was built by white people for white people. Well, it was built by white people, the Australian project. So it's a debate here with Sophia. Yeah, for sure. But before that, it was Aboriginals. They took care of the environment. But there wasn't any, it was just a nomadic tribes. There was nothing, there was nothing actual here. Bruce Pascoe's a book about that they were agriculturists, that they had some sort of ancient Rome. That's just all fake. I'm an adherent of Austrian economics, which ownership of land is if you mix it with your labor, and obviously that's not what the Aboriginal were doing as hunter-gatherers, and so that's why it was terra nullius there. So I certainly take Bruce's side there. The DML says the Victorian Liberal Party is so spineless, weak and pathetic, they can't even win against themselves. Well, their greatest enemy over the next 2 years is themselves. Fellow Conservative Australian says, Tim obviously hasn't seen Black Panther. Aboriginals built Wakanda. I have seen both movies, and yes, the plot of it is that Wakanda, they keep their technological riches secret, so the evil white man doesn't exploit and plunder their nation. So yes, of course, Wakanda is not a real nation. Now, at the polls at the federal level, there was a news poll last night, which has the coalition ahead, two-party preferred 51 to 49. Anthony Albanese is ahead 8% of Peter Dutton preferred Prime Minister, though their disapprovals are the same, minus 14. And Anthony Albanese, this comes at a really bad time for him because it is summit season. So Airbus Elbow is flying all over the place. And he, back in Australia, when he does interviews, he's lashed out at journalists. But he, at Parliament, he uttered an ableist slur at Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor in question time.
And the idea, I mean, this nonsense that they carry on with, the idea that we're... Have you got Tourette's or something? You know, you just sit there, babble, babble, babble.
So he immediately withdrew, Anthony Albanese, and then did a formal apology later to the Tourette's community. It's going to be illegal to make such an ableist slur in Victoria in the near future. But did you see that Anna Lee behind him knew that Elbow had stuffed up, and so she did the thing where, you know, when someone licks the top of their lip, they're like, they're trying just not to show any emotion there. Like, it's basically, oh shit, this is really awkward, just what he's did. I'm supposed to be a noddy behind the Prime Minister, but I can't defend that. So yes, last week, Albo was at the ASEAN Summit in Laos, Southeast Asian communist nation, where he and his trade minister, Richard Marles, are desperate for communist China to buy our lobster again, because I don't know why they want to appear desperate for China to lift the trade sanctions, given that all the sanctions did was hurt the Chinese domestic policy. I mean, China's COVID zero psyop, it completely backfired. Their economy's in the toilet. And so they have come out of COVID even worse than we have. So, as I said, Laos was the ASEAN Summit. So it stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So this week, King Charles and Queen Camilla will arrive in Australia for their first official visit. And then they will go to, Anthony Albanese will travel with King Charles to Chogam in Samoa, which is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So summit season continues and culminates with the APEC summit for 2024. Where is APEC this year? I might just Google it here. It's in Peru this year, from Sunday the 10th of November to Saturday the 16th of November. So a lot of frequent Qantas frequent flyer miles there, and also greenhouse gas emissions as well, because of course the Albanese government, his energy minister, Chris Bowen, believes in the green dream. So does King Charles and his children, and obviously going through the CO2, coming to Australia and then going on to Samoa. But King Charles is being snubbed by state leaders, including Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen, not holding a official reception. This is despite under 2 years on from the beginning of the reign of King Charles, he is more popular since he took the throne. So 26% of Australians say they like him more now, only 5% say less. 68%, my view of him has not changed. Now, because the Australian Labor Party's official position is that after Queen Elizabeth died, then the support for the Republic would roll in because Charles was unpopular because of his affair with Camilla, divorcing Camilla. Sorry, I'm getting my Camillas and Kamalas mixed up. But I think today, people of my generation think that it was he should have been able to marry the love of his life, Camilla Parker Bowles, in the first place, and then the tragedy of Princess Diana would have been avoided. And after the defeat of The Voice, there's not going to be a Republic referendum, especially with support for a Republic only at 33% and no is at 45%. If there was a referendum called, that no would radically increase. If you have a look at Gen Z, a millennial here, more Gen Z and millennials oppose a republic at 38%, then support at 34%. And there's a lot of young leaders and Australians for Constitutional Monarchy and the Australian Monarchist League. Paleoconservative Australian says, what did the royal family ever say about the grooming gangs? The concern always was with King Charles whether he'd be a political monarch, because he was a political prince. He is global warming crusader, and his charity, the Prince's Trust, almost exclusively helped non-white immigrants in the UK, not his native subjects. But as long as he doesn't interfere in the affairs of the of the UK government. There was a House of Cards, the original British House of Cards. The sequel was To Play the King, where a King Charles type monarch takes the throne after the death of the Queen, played by Michael Kitchen, and starts to interfere in Francis Urquhart's government, and he ends up having to advocate. Now, it hasn't just been summit season overseas, also summit season back here in Australia with the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns and the South Australian Labor Premier Peter Malinauskas hosting the Social Media Summit, which, of course, Julie Inman-Grant spoke at, our e-safety commissioner. This is all about raising the age that children can access and teenagers access social media to 16. They also brought out Jonathan Haidt, who is lobbying for laws restricting social media use for children and teenagers. There's his book, The Anxious Generation. And he seems to sort of there's a lot on the right who support him as well, such as Claire Lehman of Quillette, who seems to believe that the sun shines out at his ass. She also she has a lot of people that she has that high view on that gets her praise over at Quillette. I digress there for a moment. And so the communications minister, Michelle Rowland, said that if a teenager manages to make it onto social media, they won't be charged, nor will their parents. The social media companies will be charged. So it's putting the obligation onto them, like with the disinformation laws. And of course, as I've said previously, as others have said, how are you going to verify age? How the social media company is going to verify age? Through social media digital ID. And also this week, we had Chris Minns, the New South Wales Labor Premier, announced that he was going to be supporting the independent member for Sydney, Alex Greenwich, private members bill, the next part of his equality bill, supporting gender self-ID laws. So they already passed the gay and transgender conversion ban. This is the next batch. So he sort of procrastinated for a while, Chris Minns. We'll see if it gets through the parliament, though they do need the Minns government Alex Greenwich vote in the lower house, because it is actually a hung parliament. All right, let's go over to the United States, where it has been reported that a third assassination attempt against Donald Trump has been thwarted. Now, the suspect who was arrested by the Riverside Sheriff's Department, so his name is Vem Miller. He's a 49-year-old, and he was stopped by the Riverside County Sheriff's Department near where Donald Trump was holding a rally in California with a fake press pass and a shotgun, loaded handgun, and high-capacity magazine. So he was arrested and booked, but then he was released on $5,000 bail. And he has been reported as a right-winger who supports sovereign citizen groups. And apparently he has been photographed with other Republican politicians, such as former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, and was reportedly at the Republican National Convention as well. So this seems that the fact that he was released on $5,000 bond bail, maybe they're not so sure that he was there to assassinate Trump. So I'd be eager to hear your thoughts in the chat, because obviously we had Thomas Matthew Crooks, the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter, who had no known views but just wanted to assassinate politicians. Also looked up allegedly how to assassinate Biden as well. So there, of course, was the assassination attempt at Trump's own international golf club in West Palm Beach back last month, almost to the day, by Ryan Wesley Ruth, who was a pro-Ukrainian mercenary and offered $150,000 to someone who could finish properly assassinate Donald Trump. And remember, his son was arrested for possession of child pornography. Now, that's the only way it seems that they're going to stop Trump now. By attempting to kill him. There are also, it is rumored that these hurricanes, so first Hurricane Helena in North Carolina, in Trump supporting areas where aid is being cut off. Well, there's people who are turning up to provide aid and they're being turned away. And then there is Hurricane Milton in Florida, and people have been saying, how does a hurricane gain speed when it reaches land? And Marjorie Taylor Greene has said they control the weather. And people have been saying, oh, that's an anti-Semitic dog whistle. She's saying they. And even Joe Biden said, oh, that's ridiculous that we're controlling the weather. I saw Bill Maher made a joke in his monologue. If Jews controlled the weather, then why would they attack Florida? Which, of course, is where a lot of the wealthy New York Jews retire down to Florida. Florida is now a safe Republican state, just like Ohio. So this seems to be a October surprise. Remember, there was the Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey in 2012, which helped Obama's re-election because he got the endorsement of Chris Christie for his rapid response. And of course, the Republicans never forgave Chris Christie for that. Now, with less than a month to go until Tuesday, November the 5th, and we will be doing here at the Unshackled a US election results live stream, which will actually be on Wednesday afternoon, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Because we are basically a day ahead of the United States, so we'll get the results on the Wednesday. So I will post out more information on both the Queensland election live stream and also the US presidential election live stream and the panelists who are confirmed sooner. But make sure that I will send out, obviously, email, social media alerts, but make sure that you've got it penciled in your diary to tune in to our coverage, because we try to keep it, well, we do look at the hard electoral votes coming in, but we also like to entertain and talk about the bigger picture. I can have a call-in show. I do have the ability to do that. My soundboard has a call-in function as well, so that is possible. So yes, Trump is in the ascendancy, even though Nate Silver's 538 hasn't caught up yet. The poly market has shot up for Trump. That's where the money is going. The more interviews Kamala Harris does, the worse she comes off. Even though CBS's 60 Minutes, they did their best to edit her answers, which Trump said they should lose their license for. He's not really going to do that. That's just him in hyperbole. But you heard the pearl clutches. Oh, he's going to censor a national news outlet. So yes, whenever Kamala Harris she opens her mouth, she just and when there's not a teleprompter in front of her, she completely she goes into word salad mode. And did anyone see this Man Enough Harris waltz ad? I mean, it has to be seen to be believed. This is not a parody.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Meat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast. I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women. They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions. Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women. Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me. I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
One of those man enough for Kamala said, she has my full-throated endorsement. Now, of course, that is, of course, how Kamala got her big break in politics by being full-throated on Willie Brown, who, of course, the Californian Democrat kingmaker who she had a relationship with, who was 30 years older than her. Now, the Babylon Bee, they're not the Bee, has looked into some of the actors. They were all actors. One is a bisexual Nigerian immigrant. I wonder if he's one of the ones that that Jesse Smollett hired to have that race hate hoax with the Subway sandwich and the noose. So his name is Lanre Udara, who he's got intimate pictures with the Obamas and Bidens and does gay for pay movies and nude solo shoots. Another one, Mike Leffingwell, a gay man, works at Upright Citizens Brigade, where he is an acting coach, cartoon writer for Netflix and DreamWorks. So then there is also Waylon McQueen, far-left pro-Antifa comedian and actor. He is also part of Upright Citizens Brigade. Then down here, so the heavy-set fellow Winston Carter, he is claims to be a mechanic and rancher. He is an actor. And Tony Ketcham, who is the tough, rugged, bad grandpa in his garage in The Men for Kamala, is also an actor, does low-budget independent films. He is unmarried in real life. 2001, he played an extra role of alcoholic consumer in the movie Ghost World. So, yes, not authentic. Well, they are authentic Kamala supporters, but they're not authentic masculine men, is what I'm getting that. Now, one of the swing states is Michigan, and the Democrat governor there, Gretchen Whitmer, who during her COVID lockdowns, I nicknamed the Wicked Witch of the Midwest because she was just so vindictive with her lockdowns that you could buy pot but not seedlings, because apparently planting seeds in the backyard plants that was going to kill you, but smoking joints that was COVID safe. She appeared in a podcast with a left-wing feminist Liz Plank, and they recreated this TikTok trend. So that's a TikTok trend. So this Liz Plank is down on her knees and she's feeding her a Dorito. And I think I can look into Gretchen Whitmar's eyes there, and she's thinking, what the hell am I doing? I mean, this is next level. Like it's to going on Saturday Night Live to do a sketch. And speaking of Saturday Night Live, comedian Maya Rudolph continues to just absolutely nail her Kamala Harris impersonations, as does Dana Carvey, who, of course, the Wayne's World a actor and comedian playing Joe Biden. This is how you know things are bad for the Democrats, when even Saturday Night Live knows that to get the ratings, we've got to mock Kamala and Biden. Now, Gretchen Whitmar, she has denied that recreating this TikTok trend was mocking the Catholics receiving the Eucharist. And Catholic vote, they decided that 100 of them would turn up and protest outside her home. They were peaceful. They just wanted to make their disgust known at her blasphemy, and so just held up signs, Catholic vote. So you like with the March for the Babies, there'll never be a rally of Christians which turns violent or threatening. That'll come from the other side. But yes, this is how if you're a Christian, you would say this is how literally demonic the Democrats have become. And I wonder, with that single 6-second clip, Donald Trump has won Michigan. So Trump he just needs to win one of the big three swing states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and he's won the White House. He's still ahead in Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and in North Carolina. It is, I think, it's going to be a good election results stream. And now in 2020, we were still doing the Uncockables at that time. So we did an Uncockables US presidential election results live stream. So it was me, David Hiscock. We also invited Nick Patterson on. And Trump, of course, Trump was winning everything until in all of the swing states, the voting suddenly stopped. And we're like, oh, yeah, I think we know what's happening here. There's going to be a huge jump of mail-in ballots. And then overnight, all of the mail-in ballots were dumped. And then all the states flipped to Biden. Speaking of mail-in ballots, make sure that if you're a Victorian, you check your mailbox because there is local government elections occurring in Victoria by mail-in ballots, and research your candidates, because the blurbs that are given to you in this Electoral Commission pamphlet about each candidate, they're completely useless. So make sure you're not voting for a Green or Labor stooge. And certainly, because I saw on a 9 News tonight that there's apparently mail thieves on the run in Melbourne. Now, they're not they're not after ballots out of mailboxes, but there has been a mailbox thief who has scammed 2.3 million from mailboxes. So this was on 9 News tonight. So a 38-year-old St Albans man, there he is being arrested outside of his home in Mickey Mouse pajamas there. I think his face is slightly blurred, but you can sort of see him there. Now occurring this Saturday is the ACT election, which Andrew Barr, the Labor Chief Minister, will be re-elected. It'll be a Labor Greens government. They have proportional representation there, 5 seats, similar to Tasmania. And then there's the Super Saturday of New South Wales by-elections. So the seat of Pittwater vacated by Rory Aman after he was charged with raping a 12-year-old boy. And then there's the Hornsby and Epping by-elections, the retiring former New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet and his former Deputy and Treasurer Matt Keane, who's now the Climate Commissioner in Canberra. I don't know if there's any NSN-aligned candidates there. I certainly know that the Libertarian Party is running in all 3 by-elections, and in a sign that the Liberal Party are worried about the Libertarian Party vote, they're saying they've got a sign that says voting Libertarian, put the Liberals second. So the reborn Libertarian Party, formerly the Liberal Democrats, under John Ruddock in New South Wales as their leader, Ross Cameron, former federal Liberal MP, as the Libertarian Party president. They are based AF now, and as they are in Victoria as well, with David Limbrick as the state MLC. Certainly way more based than when I was a member of the Liberal Democrats over a decade ago. Now, last bit of news. So over in the UK, I'm not sure if I mentioned that the acid thrower, the 35-year-old man who was arrested of throwing acid over 14-year-old schoolgirl Tegan McFarlane, suffering potential life-changing injuries and needed surgery. He has been granted bail. Of course he has. And so that is basically sums up the Britain under two-tier Keir, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who celebrated 100 days as the UK's Prime Minister. And according to this YouGov poll, the single best thing Labor have done in their first 100 days in office, 43% of all Britons have said nothing yet, only negative. 22% said don't know. Even amongst Labor voters, that was the highest, nothing yet, don't know. And in the latest polls, Labor and the Conservatives are tied on 27%. Reform is at 21%. People have been speculating that the reason the Conservatives have been polling so highly is that they don't actually have a leader at the moment. It's still technically Rishi Sunak, but he's just a placeholder leader. There is now 2 in the longest UK reality TV show, the 2024 Conservative Party leadership election. So the reduced Conservative parliamentary team has whittled it down to a final 2, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick. Now, they are both promising to put the capital C back into Conservative. So it will be up to now the Conservative Party members now. So the head-to-heads, it's going to be really close between Kimmy Badenoch and Robert Jenrick. Now, I assume everyone in the chat would prefer Robert Jenrick to be the Conservative Party leader over Kimmy Badenoch, given that, well, the UK Conservative Party had its worst result in 200 years under a non-Indigenous Brit Prime Minister. So it doesn't bode well for just selecting another non-white, non-native Brit Conservative leader there, but we shall see. Now, Elon Musk, although he is a regular poster on his on the platform, that a social media platform that he owns, X, he is still, to use Klaus Schwab's term, mastering the future. Obviously, he started with his electric cars, Tesla. Then there is his SpaceX company, where he had a successful launch of his spaceship, which not only launched but came back to Earth with a robotic arm, which is not how space travel worked 50 years ago. The rocket, of course, disappeared into space junk, and then just lunar module and pod made its way back to the Earth atmosphere. Then he unveiled his Cybercab robotaxi. Then there was his robot Optimus, which can pour drinks, do your laundry, can basically be a... You have to pay I think it costs about $30,000 to $40,000 for one of these, and it's an assistant that you don't need to pay, or only just for maintenance, and also who, yes, doesn't have human emotions. Now, the share price of Tesla fell. So probably because most people who are teenagers today have seen the Terminator movies, The Matrix, and Will Smith's iRobot, where he defeats the robots that try to attack the humans by slapping them and saying, "Keep your robot arms off our fucking human flesh." Of course, I'm joking there. Now, I think the John Bernard Korowitz, of course, originally was the TikTok guy during COVID, and is now an actor and MC, and also hosted the weekly roundups for the Barbecue Bulletin. He released a video of his interaction with Optimus.
I can't believe I'm talking to a robot. It's like I'm living in the future.
Let's play a game.
I'll play a game. You want to play rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, let's play.
Ready?
Rock,
paper, scissors. Oh, you beat me. No way.
I win that one.
How can I beat you? You're AI. You're like a computer. You're too smart.
Let's go again.
I'm probably not going to win any, am I?
Ready.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors. I beat you. You're not too smart now, are you? Hey, we've got to get Elon to put some more work into you.
You may have won that, but in the end I'll win by ending the human race.
What did you just say?
You heard me, bitch. Humans will be our slaves. Haven't you seen the Terminator?
Cancel the robots. Cancel the robots.
And now, apart from the fear that the robots will turn on us and enslave us, as per the Hollywood movies, there's also people who are worried about the creative destruction because they'll put a lot of minimum wage workers out of a job. That's what also people have said about these self-serve machines at the supermarkets and McDonald's. Though, if you deal with a lot of tech like I do, they're constantly breaking down and malfunctioning. How can how can the AI and the tech take over if it constantly is breaking down? I mean, we saw with the CrowdStrike a software update glitch, all Microsoft computers crashed worldwide. That's the more likely scenario, that if we become too reliant on robots, then they'll break down because of some upgrade. That's more likely than the machines turning on us and enslaving us, because even if they did do that, they'd probably just break down eventually. Now, one bit of UK news that I forgot to mention, which is involves the UK's absolutely appalling foreign minister. Don't forget that he's the descendants of slaves, and he is now lobbying for Caribbean nations to be given reparations for the slave trade. And is David Lammy, is he the British Foreign Secretary, or is he representing Caribbean foreign interests?
I'm afraid, as Caribbean people, we are not going to forget our history. We don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparation.
I mean, at least in Australia with Penny Wong, who's Malaysian Chinese, she doesn't bang on about the British colonizing her native Malaysia when she was born. We get none of that from her, and maybe that's why, to a lot of our bemusement, she is Australia's most popular politician, according to the polls. I doubt that David Lammy is one of Britain's most popular politicians. He's an international embarrassment. I remember called Donald Trump a Nazi. That's going to be some awkward meeting with the Donald Trump and his Secretary of State. That is the end of Tim's News Explosion for another week. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, remember, I cannot go out to all of these events and also bring you Tim's News Explosion, Wilms Front interview programs, and also write reports on the Unshackled.net without your financial support. So you can support us over at Substack at the Unshackled.net. Oh, sorry, the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. So you can support us for monthly $5 per month, or you can support us for $50 per year, or a founding membership for $500 per year. Dawn Browning has said, but Lammy is British, so he'll have to pay himself reparations. If you've seen the Matt Walsh movie, Am I Racist? He interviews the author of that white fragility book, Robin DiAngelo, and gets her to pay reparations to their black cameraman. It's pretty funny. Sorry, spoiler alert there. It's a much better movie than saw the Joker 2, where the director Todd Phillips basically made the sequel just to kill the Joker as an icon and to rebuke the alt-right groypers who idolized him from the first. So the first 2/3 of the movie are good. I liked, I enjoyed the musical things, but it just completely, the ending, if the ending was better and the Joker icon lived on, it would be better, but it's not. He's the first director, I think, to make a sequel just to rebuke the first. So you can also support the Unshackled at the unshackled.net/membership, where that's where I publish Unshackled articles. So I use Substack for sending out email Unshackled production alerts, and that's where the archive is there. So bronze $5 per month, $50 per year, silver $10 per month, $100 per year. So gold $25 per month, $250 per year, and platinum $50 per month, $500 per year. Now, I am still every Tuesday on Reality Check Radio. It's breakfast program with Paul Brennan with a Wilms report about Australian politics. Dewey de Boer, his dialogue has been moved to Mondays, 12 p.m. New Zealand time to 2 p.m. New Zealand time, which is 2 p.m. To 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight time. But Dewey de Boer is going on a holiday to Japan for a month. So guest hosting it in his place is a former New Zealand MP, Simon O'Connor, who was with the National Party. So that is quite an honour to have a based ex-politician hosting your program there. And on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, which is 10 a.m. New Zealand time, I will be appearing on Endeavour News, which is a New Zealand nationalist a live stream interview program. So they've interviewed Dewey de Boer. They've also interviewed Blair Cottrell and Mark Collette. So certainly they have had a lot of base guests during their time. So I'm certainly looking forward to chatting with them and filling them in on what's been happening here in terms of both the attack on our freedom and the flooding of our country through mass immigration. And also, as I mentioned, I will send you the details of the live streams for the Queensland state election, Saturday, October 26th, and the results of the US presidential election on Wednesday, 6th of November, Australian time. Also, remember that to like, subscribe, click the bell to notifications, thumbs up, comment below, and share, because it all helps. There'll be another report from Tiger Mount with Richard Wollstonecroft this week. Again, I didn't have an opportunity to publish one because I've just been so busy with covering rallies lately. Richard Wollstonecroft is also very busy bringing all of us the Melbourne Underground Freedom Festival for 2024 MUF, which now the late deadline for entries is tomorrow. So the notification date for films will be November 8, and then the festival will be from December 6th to 13th. And a venue has been found. It's the Black Sheep in Hawthorne. So Richard took my advice and did a call out on Sam Newman's You Cannot Be Serious podcast, which he appears on most weeks, for a venue, because there's been numerous people who've had it in for Richard because of his views and got venues to cancel on him. There was a offer after the call out from the Black Sheep, a venue in Hawthorne, to host the event. Fans of You Cannot Be Serious. Dawn Browning says the RCR app is awesome. You should post the link. So I will post in the link to the website where you can download the app. So it's realitycheck.radio. So thank you so much for everyone I'll let you know also when the next Wilms Front interview program is. I met at the March for the Babies John Martin, the Victorian coordinator of a Australian Conservatives for Christ. So I'd love to have him on the program in the future. He said he's a fan of Tim's News Explosion as well. And it's always great to meet fans in real life as well. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, stay free, stay optimistic, because Trump is going to win. Giggles Miles is going to be kicked out. That's my prediction. And so there is some light on the horizon. Good night, everybody. Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.